That was beautiful. Thanks, Lily. What a great way. I love starting the morning that way. Good morning, everyone. I'm Debbie Skirdo, and I'm representing the Board of Trustees today with the announcements. We are very happy to welcome the Zoomers today and all of those in present company. Today, after the service, very important, we would love you to stay for a little while and have some information on our new project for starting teams. And it's going to be wonderful, and if you have questions, you'll be able to ask them. And we have lots of good information for you also about the amendments to the bylaws that will need to happen because of the change. Next week is also the budget review, which is also very important after the service. Okay, so plan to stick around. We have so many treats today. Oh my goodness, be ready. It's delicious. And also on the 19th, so 3 Sundays in a row, we're having our very, very important annual meeting. Now, this is where we vote on a slate of people to be elected for the coming year. We also will be voting on the teams project. We will be voting on the budget. It's a lot of voting. And we need a quorum for the passing of the bylaws amendments of 50% of our membership, which means we need 43 people here and on Zoom to be able to pass the amendments. So that's very important. We need to pass those so we can start the teams project. And I would like to announce the slate of people that we're putting up for voting this time. For Vice President of the Board, I'm happy to announce that we will be voting on a 2-year term from 2024 to 2026 for Megan Gallagher. So that's exciting. Treasurer will be voting on Carissa Moore to continue, which is also wonderful. For Committee on Shared Ministry, we are this is the congregations person on that team, and this will be Karen Lane, being voted on Karen Lane. She's right here in the choir. Stand up, Karen, real quick so people can see you. There you go. And then also to add to our, what we currently call the Leadership Development Committee, which will be called, hopefully, the nominating group, Alan Worley, our past president of the board. So those 4 places will be voted on the 19th. So be sure that you come ready to vote. And if you cannot come and you're in the car driving for a wonderful vacation, please pull over, get on Zoom and vote, because we really, really need your input, okay? It's very, very important. Also, more excitement. We know that Reverend Maggie's on vacation until I think she comes back the 13th, but in the office on the 15th, I believe, is her first day actually back, or maybe it's 16th, yeah. And so she's having a wonderful time with her grandson and son's family out in New York. And also, we have a fun retreat weekend at Camp de Benneville. Now, you want to sign up, and George Yanoki is very happy to help you sign up to register. You'll be joining Reverend Maggie, George, Shirley Ussery, and Steve Shirley. Okay, they're all going. And so you won't be by yourself. It'll be a lot. Oh, are you guys going? Okay, and Kate and Glenn Hand are also going. So that's wonderful. Oh, and my goodness, let me get all the hands up of anybody going. So Lynn Maria and Murray Smith, Kate and Glenn Hand, George Yanoki, Steve Shirley, and Shirley Ussery are all going. And Jerry. And Jerry Cox. Oh my gosh, this is a wonderful representation. So don't miss the fun. If you're a camper and you'd like to go, any of them probably could help you do the registration. Okay, and then also, and that is June 7th to June 9th. Okay, so put that in your calendar. And I think that's mainly what I need to tell you, except be sure you look at your Thursday community connections, because everything's there. Okay? And now I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Mark Moninger, who is representing the Finance Committee and has a special message for you. Thanks.
Good morning. Whoa. While Jaryus is putting up a slide, my name is Mark Moninger. I am on the Finance Committee and former treasurer of this congregation, and I'm here to play Paula, unfortunately, with some interesting news and some updated information regarding our pledge drive and our current financial situation going into the 2024-25 year. So we basically are coming to you as business people. I own a business in town, and basically churches, and especially ones like this that unfortunately can't use the fear of God to force you to give us money, or heaven and hell if you don't give us. So we know that's not work because we've tried that before, and so. But what we do have to consider is, if just like your finances, if you have this much income and this much expenses, you have to do one of two things. You either lower your expenses or find ways to raise your income. So what the amount of money that we are currently looking at is pledged amounts. Our income is here, but our expenses are here. And we have fixed expenses, we have committee expenses and committees that are asking for money. And we're gonna have to make some hard choices. So we're gonna go to the slide that shows. Okay, I'm gonna wing it from the wizard behind the screen. Okay, uh-oh. Oh, it is. This is perfect, Jaryus. This is great. Okay. So, if you look at the top, we have basic expenses. This is what it costs to run the church without anything extra being given out. Okay, just the basics. Our salaries for our minister, our staff, for our music director, those are all added together. That says staff salaries, $101,700. Then minister is actually below that one, sorry. As everybody else knows, their gas bill's gone up, their electricity's gone up, so is it here at the congregation. Our phone bill, our copier bill, all those things that you can see it there, come up with a total expenses for the year, $264,000. Our income, and we derive our income, unlike some people who have basic salaries, we get income from obviously pledges, and then we have outside organizations that we hope that we can also get money from. We have a cell phone tower here. They pay us a rental fee for putting their tower on our property, okay? It says tower rental, it's $57,000 for the year. Quinceaneras, so far we only get about $6,000. We need more quinceaneras and parties. Those outside organizations can pay us $2,000 to $3,000, which is nice, but they don't want to pay that much money if our walls are purple. Doesn't seem to go well with wedding receptions, apparently. So, but we can't paint our walls to increase the number of parties unless we have money to be able to pay for the paint and labor, and that's when we're going to need volunteers to do that. So we need money to be able to spend money to make some upgrades. And the Montessori down the street behind us, they're a major tenant for us, and they give us money too. And they're sometimes behind in rent, and sometimes they're not able to pay us on time. But if you add up all those expenses, all those income, that leaves us with $220,000. So we are now $44,000 offset. And so that means the bottom line is no increase in salaries for anybody in these staff, no extra committee monies. Those that want to increase something 10%, we can't do that. So the bottom line is we can't spend money we don't have. We need to pay our basic expenses first, our salaries and our expenses to keep the property open. So that's where we're at as of right now. We got a lot of nice, generous donations, but what Paula and Carissa and I talked about during the last week is that as members of an organization, where you're members of an HOA, or you're members of a country club, or you're members of any other club, now you're a member of a church, organization, don't like to use the word church, but as a congregation, you have a financial, we expect we have a financial obligation to keep this place here, to be able to enjoy the chairs, the music, the minister. If you enjoy all those things, then you have, I think, have a financial obligation to help support it, even up and above. Associations may call them assessments. We call it a love gift. So we are asking, and unfortunately for some snafus, we were going to have a little card that we were going to give in. We're going to do it for sure next week, but we're going to do it for the next 2 weeks, is to see how much more can you add as a one-time fee, maybe a one-time donation up and above your regular pledge. Paula, she increased hers another $21 more a month. I plan on giving like an extra $500. I increased my pledge 10%, but this place means that much to me, and my business is starting to do a little bit better, so I can afford to give a little bit more. So we're empowering everybody this week to think about what they can give. So when you're here next week, I don't want you to not show up next week because we're putting this out on there. So still come out for Mother's Day. But in your order of service, you're going to have a card that'll say how much more can you give as a one-time, help us out to at least kind of cut back at some of this deficit. Now, the other things we haven't put in here that I think as a committees and some of the other committees that are available, and finance will be part of this, I'd like to bring back some more. I think it's time to start bringing back some more fundraisers. Bring back the goods and services auction, maybe bring back our spaghetti fundraisers, game nights. So I think we need to look at doing some fundraising, which is another way you can give money. But we want to be able to start to come to the congregation in our meeting where we vote on the budget and be able to say, we don't have a deficit. Okay, we're going to be able to start the year without having to really make serious cutbacks. So that's the basic facts, you guys. The business side of businesses, we don't have, we're not the government. We can't print money or, put it on a credit card and pay interest or whatever. The reality is people want their money, and we can only give as much as we have coming in. So we need to give more than what we get from out of the area. So we need to give more than what the Montessori or Tower Rentals or quinceañeras can. According to federal law, as a nonprofit organization, you can't have more than 51% of your income from outside sources. So we need to make sure that we are supporting our congregation above the 50% threshold. Any questions? Any darts? Tomatoes? So please, we'll talk about it again more next week. We'll be thinking about what you can give a little bit more up front now, and so we can be ready to present a good budget for you in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for your attention, and have a beautiful Sunday.
And we're not done with announcements yet. So before we enter into our time of worship, I have two announcements. And I'm Catherine Rowlee, and I'm your lay leader for today. And I want to let you know that next Sunday, which is Mother's Day, we decided that we're going to do our flower communion service and honor its creator, who is one of our Unitarian Universalist heroes, Norbert Fabian Chapek. And we thought it would be a nice way to honor mothers as well. So that's next week, and you make a big communal vase of flowers for those of you who haven't done that, and then we do a little ritual around the flowers. So please bring a flower or two to put into our communal flower vase if you're coming in person. And if you're on Zoom, maybe you could get a flower and have it ready and do the service with us on Zoom. And the other thing is I want to, at this time, just so we won't interrupt the flow, talk about our speaker today. For For those of you who haven't had an opportunity to meet Michael Eselun before, he's come to be with us quite frequently, at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, for years. And I would like to tell you about him. He serves as the chaplain for the Simsman UCLA Center for Integrative Oncology. He's a two-time TEDx speaker. He speaks extensively to healthcare professionals, patient populations, and faith communities across the country. He's a long-serving member as an adjunct faculty at the Wiesenthal Center and Museum of Tolerance. He's also worked as an activist educator addressing anti-LGBTQ bias in the larger community for over 30 years. And he was recently inducted into the UCLA Semel Institute Eudaimonia Society. And that is, if you don't know what eudaimonia is, but you should look it up. No, in recognition of having lived a meaning-driven life. And basically, that means a life full of purpose. Eudaimonia is purpose, living a purpose-driven life, right? Wouldn't you say? As opposed to, what was it, hedomonia, being a hedonist. Your life has meaning and gives. So he also has 4 volumes of CDs available to purchase, and you could contact him through his website, which is www.michaeleselun.com. Pretty easy to remember. So with those of my announcements, we can take a breath, and we will begin our service. So we sound the ball 3 times. We sound it honoring yesterday, celebrating today, and awaiting tomorrow. Our opening words are an excerpt from Joseph Campbell, Myths to Live By. But to enjoy the world requires something more than mere good health and good spirits. For this world, as we all surely know, is horrendous. All life, said the Buddha, is sorrowful, and so indeed it is. Life consuming life. That is the essence of its being, which is forever becoming. The world, said the Buddha, is an ever-burning fire, and so it is. And that is what one has to affirm with a yea, a dance, a knowing, solemn, stately dance of mystic bliss, beyond the pain that is a part of the heart of every mythic rite. And our choir will sing something about life. Okay, so I'll light our chalice with these words. While Joseph Campbell notes that all life is sorrowful, he also proclaims that one has to affirm with a yea, a dance of mystic bliss beyond pain that is at the heart of every mythic rite. Perhaps that would be an aspirational description of what it means to gather here in community. A dance, a mythic rite, as we come together with our joys and our sorrows in tow. A willingness to contain all of that with one another in community. So we light our chalice today as a reminder, a source of light, a centerpiece around which our spirits might engage in that dance. So let me come down and do this. And let us rise in body and spirit and repeat our covenant together, and then we'll remain standing to sing Spirit of Life, first in English and then in Spanish. Okay. We affirm that love is the greatest of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to make choices for a healthier planet, and to live out our Unitarian and Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and all that is sacred in life. You could have a seat. And any luck, Jaryus? We have another. We have a few little glitches today, but we have a beautiful video that Michael asked for in the service. It's called "Listening with My Heart" for our Story for All Ages. But it's not having. It was having trouble having sound, so we'll try it. And if it doesn't work, we will figure it out and show it on another service. So we can give it a try. And if not, we'll close it down and sing the children out. And here's for our next glitch. It's time in the congregation for our Sunday offering, and it is, of course, we support ourselves with our generosity, and we also have share with other organizations. And since this is the first week in May, we have a new organization that we will share that whatever comes into our basket with, and that's the Foothill Family Shelter. And the video introduction is not working because it's too big, it's too high of a resolution. So Mary, who works with the Mary Darrow, do you want to come up and say something? If not, I can read about it. Would you rather I do that? No, come on. You're
I'm very unprepared, but I will tell you what I've done at the shelter, and then there will be Deanna coming on the 19th who will give you more information. I have worked there for the last 10, volunteered there for the last 10 years, and my various duties, I did the front desk where people call, and they want to know where they can find housing and et cetera, and we give them what information we can to help out as much as we can. Then I have packed bags of food, because they can come in once a month to get food. And the homeless people also will come in for food. Then I worked for the last 5, 6 years what was called Harry's Closet. And that's where people would put in what they needed for clothing at the immediate, and I would fill the bags of clothing as much as we had to give them. And they have a thrift store up here in Central that I would go and often get clothing from and get the vouchers to get clothing that I needed. In November, my sister came to visit, so I dropped out. And then I was having knee surgery in January. My knee was hurting too badly in December to go back. So I understand the Harry's Closet has been closed since I left. I go back this Thursday to start volunteering again. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but they always need help. But their main goal is to try to get families into permanent housing. They come in, they have counseling sessions for the families. They will have someone who would take care of children and so forth while the families meet. And then there can have housing for up to 2 years, but there's a lot of stipulations, and what they are, I don't know what those are. But they really, their goal is to get family into permanent housing. And they have to provide so much that goes into a savings account for them while they're in these housings so that they actually have some money whenever they are ready to transition. So that's really as much as I can tell you right now, but it's a very worthy endeavor for them to try to get people into permanent homes. So you can hear from Deanna on the 19th. Thank you.
Thank you. I did a quick look up of them on the internet, and that is their main goal. It says, the mission is to assure families a future by helping them acquire skills that will enable them to maintain a home, a job, and at the same time develop the necessary self-esteem to function as a successful, stable family. That's their mission statement. And their list is long of things they do. They have the housing program, they have a community help desk, they have a family enrichment programs, they have this school on wheels tutoring. They do tons of children activities all through the year that would engage the children and their families. They have Thanksgiving basket giveaways, et cetera, et cetera. It's a worthy organization to support. So as we have our offertory, be sure to recognize them with generous contributions. So. So we share with each other in this congregation personal joys and celebrations and sorrows, worries, concerns. And I have 3 that were in our basket today, and none were on Zoom chat. So first of all, this has got to come in here not as a advertisement, but as a concern. So hospitality help is needed in the kitchen next Sunday, okay? This is from Shirley, and she's going to be in Camp de Benneville for a work weekend, and she's concerned that there won't be anybody to take her place. So please, if you would like to take that place for her, let her know. Thank you on that. And lastly, this is a sort of a sorrow and a joy too, because yay. This is Phoebe's last service before she heads home for the summer, for her break, and she says, thank you for always welcoming me, and she looks forward to seeing us again in August. So have a wonderful summer. And so yes, so I'll be turning our meditation over to Michael, but let's just take a moment, and as we're entering into our time of meditation, hold these joys and concerns in our hearts, and also acknowledging that there were many unspoken, especially sorrows in people's hearts lately. So, Michael.
Good morning. As we move into a time of silent reflection, I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Maybe close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and let's just take a few nice deep breaths together. As we breathe and release, let the words of poet Nikki Giovanni wash over you. To me, she speaks so beautifully to self-compassion in her poem called Choices. If I can't do what I want to do, then my job is not to do what I don't want to do. It's not the same thing, but it's the best I can do. If I can't have what I want, then my job is to want what I've got and be satisfied that at least there's something more to want. Since I can't go where I need to go, then I must go where the signs point, though always understanding parallel movement isn't lateral. When I can't express what I feel, I practice feeling what I can express, and none of it is equal, I know, but that's why mankind alone, among the animals, learns to cry. As a reading this morning, I'd like to offer this. It's a poem by Dorothy Hunt, and it's called Peace is This Moment Without Judgment. Do you think peace requires an end to war or tigers eating only vegetables? Does peace require an absence from your boss, your spouse, yourself? Do you think peace will come some other place than here, some other time than now? In some other heart than yours? Peace is this moment without judgment, that is all. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without thinking that it should be some other way, that you should feel some other thing, that your life should unfold according to your plans. Peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. There's a whole lot of wisdom out there, particularly in the Eastern traditions, that would say that equanimity, acceptance of what is the pathway to inner peace and maybe even to enlightenment. In fact, there's a Zen Buddhist maxim that would say the great way is easy for one with no preferences. Simple, right? Yet as an oncology chaplain, I walk beside folks for whom a cancer diagnosis is automatic entry into the veritable Olympics of acceptance. And Zen masters be damned, every patient I have walked beside most certainly had their preferences. They would have chosen anything other than this. Metastatic cancer at age 35, I can't accept that. I can't accept that it happened to me. I can't accept that it happened to my family. I want my old life back. Even though resistance to what is, no matter what our circumstances are, only solidifies and deepens our suffering, guarantees it, in fact, leaving us stranded miles away from any oasis we would ever call inner peace. At the same time, we live in a culture that absolutely reveres self-reliance and abhors what it perceives as self-pity. The thing is, that part of us that would characterize our feelings as self-pity is the very same part that would rob us of any authentic experience of self-compassion and in turn acceptance. The two go together. While I might have this lofty aspiration for equanimity, for acceptance of all things, I'm also encumbered by all too human feelings of despair and grief and disappointment and sorrow and resentment. What about acceptance of those feelings too? Daryl is newly diagnosed with a rare and aggressive sarcoma, but at this point is completely asymptomatic. It's kind of crazy making, Michael. I'm only sick because the doctor tells me I am. So I guess I should just carry on my life as normally as possible, right? Still, he's heard enough from his doctor and read enough to have a sense of what's coming down the pike. And that leaves him terrified, of course. But I don't dare feel those feelings, Michael. If I do, I'll go down a dark hole. I'll never come out. It's a pretty common perception. If I feel my feelings, they'll take over. What I have found is just the opposite. When we give our feelings some room, show them the light of day, let them move around, it can rob them of their power. They can loosen their grip from around our throat, and we're afforded a perspective where we can see, oh, they're just feelings. And as the German poet Rilke reminds us, no feeling is final. A few years ago, one of the oncologists referred me to Vicky, who was so distressed that the doctor thought she might need a psychiatric evaluation. In any event, Michael, she's up in the infusion floor now. She's sobbing uncontrollably. Will you go see her? Well, Vicky had been living with a rare lymphoma for about 15 years. And in those 15 years had been on maybe a dozen different drug protocols. Each one worked for a time and then would stop working. And today was day one of yet another drug protocol, and Vicky was just cooked. Absolutely fried. But by the time I got upstairs to hear her tell it, really, Michael, I'm so blessed, truly. Look, at least my cancer is treatable, and I have a wonderful doctor, and I have great insurance, and I have the best husband in the world. I have kids, I have grandkids, I have a deep Christian faith, a wonderful church community. Really, I'm so blessed. And it was like the longer she talked, the less oxygen there was in the room, as if the rope was getting tighter around her neck, because she just couldn't reconcile these all too human feelings of disappointment and weariness and fatigue and sorrow with her attachment to her identity as Little Miss Sunshine. What's more, an even more fierce attachment to positivity above all else. I mean, look around here, Michael. So many others have it so much worse. Why am I such a crybaby? Absolutely no self-compassion in that statement. No grace, allowance to be a human being. It's as if she's trying to compose a symphony called Vicky, but had decided that we're only going to use these 4 or 5 notes. Only these sweet high notes of happiness and joy and forgiveness, gratitude. There was no room for deep, dark notes of despair, frustration, anger, resentment. It takes all 88 keys on a piano to write a full-bodied symphony. All those sweet high notes, all those deep, dark, low notes, everything in between. A few dark notes in the symphony of Vicky does not make her less of who she is. It makes her more. I see this as a kind of dance between acceptance and self-compassion in constant movement. I'm reminded of a toy I had when I was a kid. It was a little gizmo with a trigger on it, and when you pulled the trigger, this card spun around very quickly. And on one side of the card might be the image of a bird, on the other side the image of a bird cage, and as it spun around, it looked like the bird was in the cage. Each side of the card was telling the truth for what it was. Here's a bird cage, but we only got the whole picture by the constant movement, by the dance. What if it's like that between self-acceptance and self-compassion? Acceptance of my reality and compassion in my heart for what it's costing. The older I get, I find the more depth of meaning I find in the most deceptively simple song lyrics in very old songs from the American Songbook, written by the masters, the Gershwins, Rodgers and Hart, Cole Porter. Songs I might have even called corny once upon a time. Irving Berlin was one such master. Let's face the music and dance. Before the fiddlers have fled, before they ask us to pay the bill, and while we still have a chance, let's face the music and dance. So I might have been diagnosed with metastatic cancer, or some horrific tragedy has befallen me. Perhaps it's incumbent upon me to accept it, to face the music, if you will, but also to dance with it, to dance with all of it, and all the attendant feelings, the disappointment, the sorrow, the grief, the fear, as well as the love and the hope that might be there buried beneath all of that. And maybe through that dance, we can move through a doorway to what the Buddhists would call the Great Way. A few years ago, I had a patient, Kelly, who came to my weekly spiritual reflection group, and she would often make a comment, something like, I hate that word acceptance, Michael. I hate it. I do not accept that I have cancer. To me, acceptance implies that I approve. And I don't approve. I will never approve. I will never accept that I have cancer. I acknowledge that I have it, but I do not accept it. I got my own lesson, a vivid lesson in acceptance a few years ago. I'm an inveterate traveler, and in March of 2017, I took the most magnificent trip to Nepal and Bhutan. The second to the last day of my trip was probably one of the most perfect days of my life. Along with my friend, my guide, Saiwang, we hiked up to Tiger Nest Monastery outside of Paro, Bhutan. It's a magnificent 17th century Buddhist monastery, perilously and improbably hanging off the side of a mountain with this stunning view of the mountains and the valley below. It's only accessible by foot. It's quite an arduous climb to get up there, not unlike climbing to the top of Yosemite Falls. It's also a site of sacred pilgrimage for the Bhutanese people. All are expected to make that climb once in their lifetime, if they can. Saiwang and I made our climb. As we approached the gate of the compound, we took our shoes off, went inside. The very first thing I saw was this big orange tabby cat snoozing in this one shaft of sunlight coming in through a narrow slit of a window right next to a monk tending to the altar, all in silence. Saiwang showed me around a little bit. We went in the great hall and we sat and we meditated for a time. And then we lit a few butter lamp candles, sending up prayers for loved ones, beloved patients, my mom. Our spirits full to the brim, we descended back down the mountain, chatting, talking every step of the way. Once we got to the bottom, I was treated to the most delicious hot stoned herbal bath in a wooden tub at the family farm of my driver, Sonam Tabgai. And after this delirious soak, I got to enjoy a home-cooked meal with Sonam Tabgai, his family, and with Saiwang. Like I say, it was a perfect day. The next morning, I was supposed to fly back to Kathmandu, spend the night, and the next morning catch my long series of flights to get home to Los Angeles. I got up, I pulled the curtains back, I couldn't believe my eyes. The whole landscape was blanketed in white. It had been snowing all night. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. And just think, Michael, if this had happened yesterday, you wouldn't have got to have that day yesterday. Aren't you lucky? And then it didn't stop snowing. Uh-oh, what if my plane doesn't leave? What if I don't make that connecting flight to Los Angeles? I got up, scrambled to get my things packed up. Saiwang picked me up downstairs. I was a little frantic. I said, Saiwang, can we call the airport? Do you think my flight's going to leave? And he says, no, Michael, we can't call. You have to go in person. And I'm sorry to say it's against the law for me to go in with you. So once I leave you off at the door, that will be goodbye. Now I'm starting to get a little panicked. Oh my God, that flight home, those Airbus 380s have 15 seats across in coach. If I miss my flight, I know they're going to put me on another flight. I'm going to be in a middle seat. I won't be able to survive 36 hours of flying home. No, stop. I wasn't expecting this little pop quiz in Buddhist philosophy at this point in my journey. Just breathe, Michael. Pay attention. What's in front of you? Oh, look, the little kids playing in the snow. Aren't they cute? They're so happy to have been released from school. We get to the airport, and I have a rather tearful goodbye with Saiwang, which doesn't exactly feel like goodbye because I'm not sure I'm leaving. He tells me he'll wait in the parking lot for an hour or so to make sure I get off or we have some other kind of plan. When I get inside the terminal, it's pretty clear there's no electric power. There are no lights, no computer screens, no PA system. There's one teeny woman behind a desk and hundreds of grumpy passengers, scared passengers in front of her. Okay, now I have to say Bhutan is the most Buddhist country imaginable. It's not just a religion. It is not just a way of life. Somehow it's in their DNA. I don't think I have that genetic code. I wait through that long line. I get up to the desk, and this woman looks at me so kindly, smiling. "Yes, sir, how may I help you?" As if she has all the time in the world. As if she hasn't just been dealing with hundreds of disgruntled passengers. I explained to her about my itinerary and my need to get back to Los Angeles and my aisle seat that I had reserved. She listens carefully and says, "Yes, sir. If our flight is canceled today, the airline will have to put you up in another hotel for tonight in Paro. But there's a chance you could get a flight tomorrow morning back to Kathmandu, still make your connecting flight." So, of course, the flight was canceled, and thank God Saiwang was still outside because he could drive me to the new hotel. At least I didn't have to deal with all the shuttles and everything. Get to the hotel. It's pretty clear now that that blackout wasn't just at the air terminal, it was everywhere. There was no heat, no hot water, no electricity, no internet, no way to communicate with Scott. It was so cold, I had to put every article of clothing I brought with me on, get under the covers just to keep my teeth from chattering. This little pop quiz in Buddhism was going a little far for my money. As the afternoon drew on, I'm trying to wrestle with myself. Just let it go, Michael. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it now. But as it grew darker in the afternoon, I realized I've got no way to see in here. Certainly wasn't going to use what was left on my phone battery to use my flashlight. There was a candle in the room, but no match. So I trudged through the snow up to the main lodge to see if they've got a match. And just as I enter, there appears to be a man from the airport walking in. I grab him before anyone else can. I say, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me, do you think my flight's going to leave tomorrow?" "Well, of course, sir, but first, tell me, how do you like the hotel?" How do I like the hotel? My inner ugly American is starting to wake up. Well, it's very nice, but it's cold, it's freezing, there's no hot water, and there's no light, and there's no internet, and I need to get home. And with so much tenderness and compassion, he just said, "Yes, sir. All over Paro, there's no heat, no lights, no hot water." It was this stunning demonstration of equanimity. It's just how it is. It was so striking to me, I thought of calling this talk, "How do you like the hotel?" I can only aspire to that kind of equanimity. I just don't think I have it. Happily, my flight did leave the next morning. I sailed past Mount Everest, a stunning view against a sapphire sky. I land in Kathmandu. I run through passport control, run through security, run out onto the tarmac, up the gangway, and they close the door right behind me, into my aisle seat with only seconds to spare. Sometimes things work out. My grandma Ann, my mom's mom, was a born worrier. She worried about everything and everybody her entire life. Toward the end of her life, she had a lot of health issues, a lot of surgeries. I went to see her after one surgery or another, and they wouldn't let me in the recovery room, I remember, but I could talk to her across the threshold. And I said, "How you doing in there, Gram?" She says, "Honey boy, you get yourself all worked up over these things, and it's just never as bad as you think it's going to be." Took her 83 years of hard life to come to that simple, profound wisdom. Life does what it needs to do, and I have what it takes to make the journey no matter what. Can I have faith in my own capacity to respond? A few years later, I got a real exercise in self-compassion. January 3rd, 2020, my first day back to work after the New Year holiday. I'm driving home from the infusion clinic going east on Santa Monica Boulevard. When I crossed Barrington, a woman coming south on Barrington ran a cherry red light, smashed into my driver's side door with me on the other side of it, totaling my 13-year-old Prius. A car from which I was hoping to squeeze a few more years. So much so that I just put $5,000 into it for a new hybrid battery and new tires. A total loss. Happy New Year. So I had to spend money I didn't want to spend to get a replacement used car. And yeah, it was nice to have a newer car, but I'd rather not have had to spend the money. And then Christmas Eve comes about 10, 11 months later, 2020, the height of the pandemic. We're all in isolation. Do you even remember what that was like? Before the vaccines, we're cloistered at home. It's Christmas Eve. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. I hear what sounds like an explosion in front of the house. The whole house shook, this sinking feeling. Oh no. I went outside. The whole neighborhood was already out on the street. Some kid running a drug deal gone bad had smashed into my new car with such velocity that he knocked it clear in front of the neighbor's house. No! I could not accept this reality. I went out of my mind. God bless Taylor next door, just the person you want in such a crisis. He's keeping the space of calm. He's talking to the cops. He's getting the ID information, taking the pictures, and I'm melting down. And he just says, Michael, it's okay. He keeps saying that. Michael, it's okay. I finally snapped. Taylor, quit saying that. There's absolutely nothing about this that's okay. God bless Lisa across the street. She walks up right behind me, whispers in my ear, you're absolutely right, Michael. There's nothing about this that's okay. Sometimes you just need your feelings affirmed. Do you know what I mean? But still, I was nowhere near being able to accept this reality. And I'm one who has a very low tolerance for injustice, particularly what I perceive as spiritual injustice. I mean, look at what I do for a living, for Christ's sake. Is it too much to ask that I could have one car totaled, have to spend money I didn't want to spend to get a replacement car, and keep that car nice for longer than 10 months? Apparently, yes. And the answer to that question is always yes. Is it too much to ask? And of course, everyone I told about this calamity responded as you might imagine. Everyone except my husband, Scott. Just be glad you weren't in the car. Thank God you're okay and you're safe. Michael, it's just a car. It's only material things. It's just money. And the more I heard it, the more they said it, the more I wanted to kill people. I knew they were right, but I wasn't remotely close to that feeling at all. It took me a good week to come up with a word to accurately describe how I felt. Forsaken. I felt spiritually forsaken. Somehow the universe had broken its contract with me. Whatever, I was forsaken. I was bereft. And because it was holiday time, the insurance company took a good week to come tow the wreckage away. So every morning I go out to get the paper, to get my mail. I'm confronted with that violence, with the spiritual injustice of it. And when they did finally come tow it away, I amazed myself. I sobbed as if they were wheeling my dead mother out of a hospital room. And I'm not a car person at all. I go in the house. Scott was so dear, and he just held me, and I just cried, and I was embarrassed. I said, Scott, you know this isn't about the car, right? This has nothing to do with the car. I know. I'm a swimmer. I swim every day religiously. It's partly to stay fit. It's partly to keep my sanity. And during the pandemic, it was really hard to find a place to swim with my gym closed. Finally, for a while, was schlepping out to Glendale. They had a community pool that was open with strict precautions. Every day I had to scramble to get a reservation to go swim for 45 minutes. Thoroughly disgusted with myself. I can't get past this. I can't let it go. I drive out to Glendale. I swim. Driving back home, having a little discussion with myself. Driving home down Forest Lawn Drive past these two enormous cemeteries, Mount Sinai, Forest Lawn. Look, Michael, there's hundreds of thousands of dead people up there. They'd give anything to be back in a body and dealing with something as stupid as your car. Doesn't that jog you loose? Doesn't that put this into perspective? No. And with that, a light bulb went on. My God, if that doesn't jog me loose, this is a deep wound. This wound needs tending. It needs curiosity. It needs care. It needs compassion without the need to judge it or compare it to anything else. And when I had that awakening, I started to float a little bit and move a little bit closer towards something we might call acceptance. It can be really hard sometimes to feel those feelings we don't want to feel. They're heavy, they're dark, they're embarrassing. We want so desperately to be strong and to move on, especially when those feelings aren't congruent with cultural norms and expectations. But the feelings aren't going away. So I want to walk through that doorway into those feelings, to feel them, to experience them, not only to face the music with them, but to dance with them, to dance with all of them, because soon we'll be without the moon, humming a different tune. And then there may be teardrops to shed, but while there's moonlight, music, love, romance, let's face the music and dance. So be it. April and Lily are going to offer us a special treat.
That was so special. Thank you. You don't know, you guys, that was so special, what it took to suddenly realize that Michael had requested that. And I really am just so grateful. And we have a closing song, too, for us to sing about dancing. So if you would have a rise up. Let's sing whatever it's called something about dancing. Let it be a dance. Number 311 if you're using a hymnal, but Jaryus has the words.
As a benediction, I invite you, you can stand or sit, but maybe close your eyes. And if you feel so comfortable, take the hand of one next to you or not. Let's just breathe together. And as we breathe, let's envision the complicated dance that is our own life right now. All the parts we love and the parts that bring us joy, the parts to which we cling that make us believe life is worth living, as well as the parts we wish weren't there, the parts that are hard to accept. If only this would go away. or weren't true, then I'd be happy. Then I'd be okay. Can we envision those aspects locked in embrace in a great and wild dance? May we be fascinated by the dance, entertained by the dance, maybe even fall in love with the dance, perhaps even long after the song has ended. So be it.